And again, let me remind you who I'm talking to. I'm talking
That's
to
a foreign account declaration.
That's a foreign account
it's a foreign
declaration.
account declaration.
We did
That's a good point to bring up because I think it's common practice for Canadians to have large amounts. I mean, it's not uncommon to have portfolios have a U.S. dollar allocation of $500 or $1 million targeted towards U.S. assets. But I mean, it's interesting that you bring it up because I don't think most people are aware that it is considered a foreign account.
Dan,
it's with a Canadian institution, right?
Yeah, in 1988, I wrote a newsletter that, and again, my guest is Dan Walkow, Seabank Capital, a specialist in U.S. Canadian investment, money across the border, IRAs, RRSPs. If you're an American, you want a Canadian cash account, he can deal with you. If you're a Canadian, you want an American cash account, he can deal with you. If you want a combination of both, you can be an American with a securities account in Canadian dollars. You can be a Canadian with a securities account.
You bring one aspect up, David, which is new, and
well, it's the exchange.
We're going to talk about the foreign exchange.
We're going to talk about the exchange. I'm going to do that. And if you do that, I was just about the next thing I was going to say. If you do it, he runs it in that account. He doesn't charge you an in and out exchange fee every time you buy something, because that's what was happening, right?
Well, there's that part of it, and that's basically the new retirement plans that we're able to do. We can have a dual currency account. So if you have a RIF or an RSP or a LIRA, and you like to own some U.S. securities.
No, a LIRA is a life income retirement account.
Right.
Okay.
Locked-in retirement account.
Locked-in retirement account.
The point being is you always had to settle in Canadian dollars. You could have U.S. or foreign assets in there since they released the foreign maximums right to 30%. But what you couldn't do is hold U.S. dollar cash balances. You always had to, when you bought a U.S. security in your RSP, you'd have to tell your broker, I want to buy some IBM. He would convert cash Canadian to U.S., buy the IBM, they hold the IBM in the RSP, and then when you wanted to sell the IBM, it would sell in U.S. dollars and convert it back into Canadian.
And then if you wanted to buy another U.S. stock with it.
Sure, so every time you got clipped 3% on the buy side, 3% just in currency charges, and you wouldn't see it because it's all embedded in the price.
If you bought and did it, if you did it twice in a year, you could lose 12%.
Oh, easy. Yeah, and the spreads that the banks charge are super wide right now. They used to be 100 basis points at 1% or so. Now it's as wide as 3% between the bid and the offer, depending on the size of the Forex transaction. But let me bring up something new, David, and I don't know if we'll do another segment on it because it's new for us. It's a new, not new service. We've always been able to do it, but we've kind of come across a better process and a better business partner to do it. And aside from just the automatic accounts like settling in Canadian to U.S. dollars, but dual currency accounts, we're in the foreign exchange business. So if you have selling a house in Florida, for example, in U.S. dollars, and you want to convert that to Canadian dollars, we can do that for you at wholesale.
How long can you hold the rate?
We can do it a couple of different ways. We can deal at spot. We can do forwards.
Okay.
So if you want to lock in the money, say you got U.S. dollars and you want to have that, fix the rate 3 months forward, and we can lock it in for you.
Okay.
So basically what we can do is if you're selling a house in Florida or Texas or California and you're moving back to Canada, we'll have an account set up for you and you can lock the currency into Canadian dollars at the current rate or a forward rate, have the Canadian dollars basically sitting in our accounts for your use, whether you keep it with us as an investment account or whether you take it out and buy a house. We deal at the wholesale level. We can, I think, quoting for retail rates against chartered banks, we can, certainly for size, I mean, $400,000 or $500,000 or $1 million, we're competitive. In many cases, at the smaller end, we're can save maybe 1.5% of the value.
Well, 1.5% of $500,000 sounds like $7,500 to me.
Exactly.
It's a lot of money.
So we do this basically as accommodation to our clients. So if you're a client and you have a money, we would typically look at a minimum of around $100,000 on a Forex transaction. But if it's doable, and this is, again, if you're a Canadian, you're moving down to the States, you're going down to California, and you got, you know, $500,000, you want to convert it to U.S. and you want it set up in the United States, we can handle all the conversion for you at wholesale rates. So this is a new thing, and we weren't in the forward business before, but we are now. So, for example, if you have a liability or commitment, a payment to make, you want to lock in the conversion rate, we can set it up for you. So, and again, we do it flat. We don't mark up. Like currency dealers take a markup, right? They
Yep.
just like brokers. You know how that works.
Yep.
And this is what the banks are doing when they convert money to buy U.S. stock. Well, the markup is 3% between the buy price and the sell price,
Yep.
or what's known as the bid and the offer. So you're getting, well,
You're paying a big buck.
well, it's a year's worth of
Well,
interest.
for
at
years,
least.
I've been sending people, for instance, out to Michael Levy at
Yeah,
Currency
yeah.
Exchange, and he's always been able to do it for usually 1% less than
Than the bank.
the going rate.
So we
is.
did. It was similar. We've added in a division, if you will, or a department in our organization, where we can do the forex in-house.
Now, are
at
you doing
wholesalers.
this for all currencies or just U.S. Canadian?
We can do it for any currency. You know,
Okay.
euros to Canadian, euros to U.S. But the primary thing, this is a facilitation, and the reason we've done it, David, is that it's a facilitation to our cross-border clients.
Well, sure.
Right? I mean, it just goes lockstep with our business of operating on both sides of the border. So you don't have to go to Currency House or the bank to do your currency conversions. We can do it all for you.
Well, you
at
can
wholesale
do it,
rates.
and you can, because you're doing this and you're facilitating somebody moving, you also can help in getting things like a MasterCard or a Visa card.
Well, we can
and
enable the process. Absolutely.
Enable, yeah.
Yeah. So we don't issue them, but we can enable it because we have business partners on both sides of the borders, and of course, identification and credit verification is the big problem, right?
Well, that's one of the things. You get people can be going down and taking a $150,000 a year job. They get down to Sorrento, California or something or other, and they don't know anybody. Bank doesn't want to deal with them. Nobody wants to deal with them.
Yeah.
The guy's used to being a person of substance, and suddenly
You're nothing.
they
Yeah.
won't give him a credit card.
Absolutely.
So he's using his Canadian credit cards and going through that double exchange
Yeah.
rate to get the thing started.
Yeah.
So you can actually set them up before they get across the border.
Well, that's right. So we can set up, we can take the Canadian dollars, we can convert it to U.S., we can set it up in a U.S. domiciled account in the United States. We can get a debit card issued. So you have a beginning of a financial record. Beyond that, then we can enable, because they're identified to us as our business partners, will rely on us to proof of verification.
So how long, let me just do that, how long in advance of, and now let me just, you've also started doing something, you've done another thing where you're actually offering a consultation service as well on a fee basis. Am I correct
Well, what
on
we
that?
decided to do is we're going to be changing our, sort of formally in the first of the year, is what we decided to do is, you know, somebody will phone up and want some advice and so forth, but they don't necessarily want to deal with us. And the reason, it may be very simple. For example, somebody will phone up and say, who wants to, say they've got a couple $100,000 and they want to manage it themselves. They don't want any
Yep.
advice. You know, why would you pay C-Bank Capital 1.5% of the value of assets if you don't want the advice, either on an advisory basis or a managed basis? So, and we've had several inquiries, and they want the answers, like, can I, you know, what do I have to do about this, or how do I unlock my lira, stuff like this. So what we're doing is we basically charge a consulting fee, and it's $250 an hour, and you can call us up, and we'll give you the answers, and then you can either choose to go with us. If you do, fine. We'll charge you the $250, and we'll rebate it against your first quarter's fees.
Well, that's more than fair.
So we'll just rebate it back. I mean, so you're not out of pocket for the advice. Or if you're a standalone inquiry and you want to get our opinion and advice as to structuring accounts or how to do this or how to do that, and, you know, arguably you'd have to go pay somebody a lot more than what we charge. So we just flat charge a fee of $250 an hour, and that's it. You give us through PayPal. You just give us our fee, and we'll give you the advice.
I think it's what I've thought you should do since the first day I had lunch with you.
Yeah, and most people,
Because
we haven't
got information that other people don't have.
Yeah, we've done it sort of gratis, on the basis that if we provide the initial advice, that people would want to take us and have them manage their money. But there's many cases where legitimately it doesn't make a lot of sense. For example, you know, they want to manage it themselves. They want, say, for example, counseling on currency or something like that, or residency issues or other issues that really got nothing to do with investment management. And so it's a modest rate. We don't charge, as you know, $250 an hour.
Well, I charge $450 an hour. You know
It's
that.
a large amount of money.
But I've got knowledge that nobody else has anywhere.
Yeah. No, you've got a very deep set of knowledge.
And I don't charged for going and looking up an answer.
Yeah.
If I can't,
You've got to
if
do
I
a lot
don't,
of research.
if I don't know the answer, I'll spend 8 or 9 or 10 hours looking up something.
Yeah.
And
I don't think some people, realize sometimes, and certainly not all, but occasionally, and I'm sure you've gotten appreciate the work it takes to uncover some of this stuff. Because it's not like you just look it up in the text and sort of say, here's the pat answer. In your case, we were talking earlier tonight before the show about this commentary about the teacher pension thing in the States.
The windfall elimination provision.
Right. And
yeah.
this takes some investigation on your part.
I'm going to take some time before we deal with that. We're going to take a break for a couple of minutes.
So
take a break for a couple of minutes, and we'll be right back with Dan Walkow. And I see Murray Morrison has arrived, who's going to be talking about bankruptcy in a few minutes, too.